An Ideal Family. By Katherine Mansfield. Summary. An Ideal Family was written by Katherine Mansfield and first published in the literary magazine The Sphere on August 20, 1921, and later incorporated into The Garden Party and Other Stories in 1922. Set in New Zealand, possibly in Wellington, An Ideal Family is an examination of self-worth within a family's social structure as seen through the eyes of an aging patriarch. Mansfield, ever the modernist, often experimented with structure and narrative. Although the story appears structured, the third-person narrative and the internal monologue of the protagonist, Mr. Neve, centers the plot's progression around the inner struggle of the main character as he comes to terms with his pending retirement. The third-person narrative supports the plot, allowing the reader an aerial view of Mr. Neve's circumstances as well as intimate access to his inner thoughts as he navigates life outside of his office. Mr. Neve, a successful businessman, is reluctant to leave his profession and only source of true identity. His home life is dominated by his family, who he barely recognizes anymore, and he feels both unwelcome and out of place in their frivolous world of dinners and parties. Mr. Neve prided himself on his sense of duty and committed work ethic, which allowed for a bourgeois life of luxury for himself and his family. He isolated himself from his family in order to build his business, an investment that enabled him to successfully provide his family with everything they desired. Now that he is of retirement age, however, he finds he is a burden at home, corralled by his grown daughters into doing what they want and coddled by his wife who seems only passingly interested in his well-being. Mr. Neve's self-worth is solely invested in his business, but now that the balance of work and play has been disrupted by his failing health, he fears the loss of both his identity as a businessman and the collapse of his company by his negligent son, Harold, who lacks any sense of duty or familial responsibility. Duty and responsibility are important themes in the overall text, usually in association with a character like Mr. Neve who prides himself on his work ethic. Mr. Neve was motivated to work hard in order to support his family and to accommodate their extravagant lifestyle. Often complimented on his ideal family, Mr. Neve thought of his wife and children as an extension of his success in the business world. He is especially disappointed in his son, Harold. Mansfield uses effeminate language to describe Harold's appearance. Mr. Neve thinks his son is unnaturally beautiful for a man with full lips and eyelashes. Some scholars believe this is an indication of bisexuality, which would have been most distressing from Mr. Neve's conservative viewpoint. Mr. Neve believes Harold has been overly petted and pampered by the women in his life, especially by his mother and sisters. Feeling both lost and unappreciated within his family unit, Mr. Neve retreats into sleep and dreams of an old man walking up an endless flight of stairs. This surreal imagery is used to symbolize Mr. Neve's growing anxiety about his retirement and the unease he feels about the life he has led. Perhaps Mr. Neve feels he has failed his family by putting his business first. Mr. Neve finds it difficult to distinguish himself from his work, and now that he will eventually spend most of his time at home, he finds that he is dreading the transition and fears he has no place of honor within his family's social structure. Yet Mr. Neve believes Harold will be the death of his business, which in turn will put a stop to his family's comfortable lifestyle. In order to maintain the status quo, he will have to continue to work. Although he takes great pride in his job, Mr. Neve also recognizes his limitations due to age, and like the old man he dreads the drudgery of continuing to live a life of self-imposed isolation. Like Sisyphus of Greek mythology, who was forced to eternally roll a stone up a hill, Mr. Neve will carry on as he has always done because he feels he has no other choice.